Following the release of his fourth novel, Estate Secrets, John reflects on the challenges a writer may encounter on their journey to the final product that readers enjoy. In this episode, we explore the benefits of self-publishing as he sees them, his process for creating eye-catching book covers, and where he finds writing motivation. We also dive into his unique approach to storytelling and the inspirations behind his novels. Get to know the author John W. Goodland and gain a closer look into his writing journey thus far. This is the Brewing Fiction Podcast. How much did you say how unpublished work do you have? So you seem to just delve into long form writing, correct?
I've never tried short form. I know I see on Facebook, I'm a member of this writers group from Atlantic, Canada. And I see people talking all the time about, oh yeah, I submitted this short story to this thing. I submitted this short story to that thing. I wouldn't even know how to go about starting a short story. I don't know what qualifies as a short story. For me, it's I have this idea. How can I stretch it out to 80,000 words?
Right. Yeah.
Really, that's what it comes down to. And then in terms of stuff sitting around, typically it's only the thing that I'm working on at that time. Now I have a tremendous ability to hyper-focus. So if I'm working on, and it's almost like I won't let myself, I almost feel like I owe it to myself and I owe it to the story that I'm working on to finish that. I have an obligation to finish that story, to tell this person's story before I can let myself start thinking about something else. I don't know.
Wow. That is a skill. That is a good skill, because human nature is to see what's happening and stay focused on things around, not stay focused on one thing, but things that are around. So that is a definite skill, in my opinion.
I'll take it as such. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. Do you have a writer's kryptonite? So a weakness that, you've discovered in your last couple of years of writing?
How do you mean? Like something that takes me away from writing, or?
Yes. Yeah. Just, for example, the shiny things for me is a kryptonite. The other thing for me is excessive editing. I'll write a line and edit it 10 times. So something that you feel, if I didn't have that weakness, your writing would be more comfortable, quicker, easier.
To this point, probably not. In my work life, I've always had positions where I've always done a lot of writing for a lot of different things. And I think at some point you get to the point where you realize that you could always make changes, you can always edit, it could always be better.
Yeah.
But at some point you just got to let it go.
I know.
So when I started writing fiction, look, I can pick up Siege of Carbonear Island and it wouldn't take me very long to find a typo or find something where it's like, oh man, I was too repetitive with that word. That's probably where I spend my most time, is making sure that if I use this word here, I don't use it again too soon thereafter. So I don't know, maybe that's my thing. But at this point, other than the fact that I haven't been able to write anything since February, aside from that major kryptonite, I'm doing all right.
Good for you. I bet there's a lot more that would say, oh, I've got many. So you're self-published, and I would love to hear the steps you go through from finishing your manuscript to selling your first copy.
Yeah, so it's been a bit of an evolution. So I started writing. I finished writing Siege of Carbonear Island, my first novel, in late in November of 2020. That didn't get published until I think it was April of 22. So I tried the traditional process. So I had the manuscript. I sent it out to your typical publisher, your local publishers.
Yeah.
And then there was one publisher I was doing it back and forth for a year. until
Wow.
they finally said, yeah, you know what, we're not going to go there.
Okay.
And so then I think that was in December of 21. So then I threw it aside and said, all right, well, nobody wants it, so I'm done.
Okay.
And somebody mentioned to me something about self-publishing, because again, I haven't been really into the world of bookmaking.
Yeah.
So someone mentioned it in passing, and I was like, I don't know anything about that. And then it's funny how life goes. I had taken a secondment at work less than a year, and one of the people I was working with in my new job,
Yeah.
who I didn't know very well, I heard that he had got a publishing deal for his novel.
Okay.
And that kind of upset me for a little bit. It's like, well, why can he get one and why can't I? And all of this stuff, the whole
Yeah.
self-pity thing.
Yeah.
And then I decided, you know what, man, I got a lot of time and energy put into this novel. I'm putting it out there. So then I started exploring the world of self-publishing a bit more.
Yeah.
Came across KDP. And, I found it a great service because it takes you through step by step how to format and how to lay it out and how to get it ready to go. So the first time around, I threw it into the machine, built the cover based on what information they had there for building covers, hit the button, and away it went.
Yeah.
Since then, what I do is now I finish it up, I format it and stuff. But now I have a couple of beta readers that I'll send it to first to kind of get a bit of feedback and see if there's something that, typically what I say is, here, read this, see if it makes sense. Because
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
mind, it makes sense. I've
Of
been in it
course.
for so long.
Yeah.
But I want to see if somebody else gets it. And if they come back and say, yeah, you know what, I get it, then it's into the machine and format. And then on my last two, KDP has this thing where they can you can get estate or author proof copies. So now I'll put it in the machine, request 2 or 3 proof copies. Of course, your listeners can't see this, but so what I have here is a copy, a proof copy, and
Right.
there's a whole bunch of yellow tabs at the top. So I went through it and picked out all the typos and things that I wanted to change and mess around with and stuff. Then I went back to the machine and pushed go. So each time, you do one. But I think KDP, if you're looking to do a novel and you don't have the traditional publisher and you're doing it on your own, whether you choose to or what,
Yeah.
it's a good service in the sense that I've run into other self-published authors who use local printers, and the problem they have is, fine, I'll use a local printer, but I got to order 1,000 copies.
Right. A
And I don't want
minimum, you
to.
mean, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
A minimum.
there's
Okay.
always a minimum order
Yeah.
because in order for them to set up the print run and all that. But with KDP, if I want to order one, I can order one.
Yeah.
If I want to order 10, I can, up to a maximum of 999. So it's been great for me because I don't have 1,000 copies sitting around my house.
Yeah.
If I have a local bookstore that wants to get more copies, well, then I can order it 10 days later or so. I'll get my copies, and here you go.
Yeah. Okay. So all 4 of yours have been through KDP, right? I know
Yes.
you went back. I remember I have the original cover, which is going to be
Yes.
worth something someday because that's the original, right?
It's worth what you pay, brother.
You have since found a company that does cover design called Get Covers.
Yes.
How have you found, first of all, how do you feel it adds to your novel? And then talk a little bit about the process of dealing with them.
Yeah. So again, so when I did the first one, it was kind of a poor me pity type of, I'm doing it anyway, you're not going to stop me type of thing.
Awesome.
And
That. You know what? That is not to cut you off, but I think
yeah,
that is really good motivation
that's,
because, well, it
seemed a
is
bit
because,
spiteful at the time.
but you probably wouldn't be here right now talking about your 4th novel, right? Truly,
Oh,
you wouldn't
absolutely.
have
Yes, I
if you
agree.
had given up. So good for
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
So when I was going through the KDP, I didn't know anything about cover design. I also didn't want to spend any money on it because I had no idea what was going to happen.
Exactly.
So KDP has a cover builder where they give you some stock photos and some different things. And so the very first cover, very basic, blue and orange split, a picture of an island because it's the siege of Carbonear Island.
Right.
I very quickly had people point out to me, that's not Carbonear Island. It's like, yes, I know that.
Here
I
we
didn't
go.
have a phone, right?
Yeah.
But so then when I got to the second one, Saving Maria Lindsay, when I got to that one, I had learned that if you can't get people to pick up your book, they're not going to buy it. So if it's in a
Right.
bookstore and they're walking along, if your cover doesn't at least grab them enough for them to say, hey, I might be interested in this, let me see what it's about, then they're just going to walk by.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have a cover that kind of told a little bit about the story to get people maybe interested.
Yeah.
So I started checking locally because there are publishers here and there are local cover designers. And by this point, I had spoken to a couple of authors, knew what they were doing. So I started checking. And again, I don't mind saying I haven't made any money doing these novels. I keep hoping that I'm going to hit the black, but I'm not there. Every time I do a book order from KDP, I go further into the red. But, it seems to be heading in the right direction, we'll say.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to I checked with a couple of local cover design companies, and they started off at 400 plus this, plus this, plus this, and whatever. So it was 400 and up, which is not a great cost if you're a publisher and you're doing this as a business and stuff. But for someone who's just trying to get the story out there and not go too far into the hole, it was a bit to take on up front. So just through this Facebook group I'm a member of online, threw it the idea, hey, I'm trying to get a cover design. Somebody said, well, gee, try getcovers.com. So I checked with them. And so it's an online process. I think they're based in Ukraine, actually. And so I tell them what I want. It's really basic. They want to know how many pages your novel is, because, of course, this affects the design in terms of the thickness for the wraparound and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
For the spawn. You have to give them the back cover content. And then, I give them a blurb about, hey, this is what I'm thinking I want it to see. So for Saving Maria Lindsay, I wanted a young woman dressed in pirate gear that had darker skin because of her Spanish origin and a ship in the background. That's what I came up with. So I threw that at them. 5 days later, I think, they came back and said, hey, here's what we've come up with. What do you think? And I said, well, in my story, she has brown eyes. You've got blue eyes, so we need that changed. And then what about this and what about this? And they say, okay, give us a day or so. And, I think from the time I submitted the application saying, here's what I want, to the time where they sent it to me saying, here's the final copies that I was happy with, I think might have took 10 days. And by 10 days, I mean 10 calendar days, not business day.
Yeah.
And cost-wise, you pay in American dollars. When it translates over, I think I paid $50 Canadian.
Right.
For each one. So when I found that process, I decided, all right, well, I've never really been happy with the cover for the Siege of Carbonear Island. Yeah. So then I just got them to do one for that. So that's who I've used now for the fourth one as well, because it's so convenient. It's so easy. They're so easy to work with. And depending, there's different levels of package that you could buy. So they give you a cover for your novel, but also one for your ebook, because mine are all through ebooks on Amazon as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a different layout. And but they give you, in theory, you've got unlimited back and forth. They guarantee your satisfaction. So, it worked out really well. And at this point, as much as I love the idea of support local, I truly do. This is just so convenient, so quick, so easy. And I really like their work. So far I've been extremely happy. This latest one, Estate Secrets, they gave me a layout. And I said, hey, you know what? Can you make the briefcase that's open on the desk a bit bigger so that it's closer to the words for the title? Hours later, they came back and said, hey, what do you think of this? It's like, that's great. I'm good to go. So,
awesome.
It's been a fantastic process. I would highly recommend them.
Good to know. I investigated a little bit after I discovered it on your second novel. I cover created by Get Covers. I'm like, what is this? So I looked at it, and I'm not even sure how they can create I mean, your covers are as good a quality as anything you see in traditionally published books, in my opinion.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm going to put links to your covers on the podcast website so listeners can take a look.
Well, and I can tell you, they had a special on when I got Estate Secrets done.
Mm-hmm.
So that only cost me $40, and it's true. And so what they do is so you own the copyright to it.
Right.
So they send you the files, and the only requirement when you're signing up to use them and paying the fee, there's a basic contract there, and the only requirement they have is that on your title page, they want you to say cover designed by Get Covers. That's
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
And so my thought at the time was, hell yeah, I can do that for you.
I know you talk about supporting local, but there's nothing more local than supporting yourself. $500 versus $50. Come on, right? Especially for us aspiring writers. I mean, to know that, okay, one small step of this huge process is not going to break the bank, because I'll speak for myself. It's make or break. If I can't afford, or if I choose not to spend too much up front, it's never going to happen. Right. But now there's one more option that's not going to deter.
And the quality, just to go back, the quality is fantastic. It really, they really do a good job. So, I mean, I've been over the moon pleased with them.
Good. I will use them as well if I ever get that darn novel finished.
I'm sure you will. I have full confidence.
I'm going to take some of your tips. You're even going to tell me some more maybe a little later. So,
all right.
I like the outline idea. Maybe I need to step back and. Do you have so I've read this 13 chapter outline and the hero format, and there's all kinds of things out there, right, that writers can use to format or plan their book. Is yours just your own makeup, like 20 chapters, 15 chapters, 18 chapters, or have you used some format that you found online that someone suggested?
No, mine is my own. I'm not a student of the game, so I've accepted a long time ago I will never have your typical number one selling novel, and the reason is, in my mind, people that do that are students of the game. They are full-time writers. They spend a lot of time learning about plot and character arc and all these things. For me, those are words that have come up since, and I'm like, I should probably figure out what that means. But for me, it's more a matter of, I think more practically in terms of when my wife reads my draft, is she going to say to me, that chapter is too long? So my layout is, I know these days that in order to get to about 80,000 words, I'm looking at maybe between 20 and 24 chapters based on the length that I want to have my chapters, which are, 8 to 12 pages roughly. Because I know when I'm reading, I read in segments. I don't have time ever to sit down and read for 6 hours. Yeah. So I get a snippet of time to read, but I hate having to stop at a spot where it's not supposed to stop. So I want to stop at the end of a chapter primarily, or at least, in books where they put the little asterisk to show a change of idea or change of scene.
Yeah.
I want to get to one of those.
Yeah.
So I don't like long chapters. So, if I'm reading a novel, that's what I want. So this is what I'm giving. And if my wife reads it, she's like, you know what, that one's a bit long. It's like, all right, well, so what I've learned now by number 4 is that, 20 to 24 chapters gets me to where I want to be in terms of the word count that I'm after. Right?
Nice. We're just about done here, and I have to ask, earlier this year, you and I spoke, and you were having a hard time with motivation, right?
Yep.
You weren't sure that that Estate Secrets was ever going to come. Was there a catalyst that got you through that? Because writer's block, and I'm not sure if it's writer's block, I'll call it that just for sake of a term, but, writer's block is a real thing. Some people have different techniques. How'd you get through that?
Stubbornness and spite.
So
what
happened? I'm telling you. So here you go. You talk about your first novel was, in how you term it, spite. and now you used it again to get your fourth one out there.
Well, and it's true because so again, when we as a family hit January, February, we all got really busy, and so my time for writing kind of dried up. But that coincided with me having gone through a little period of wondering what's the point. I enjoy telling stories. I enjoy the creation of it, and we joked earlier about the power of taking someone out or writing someone in, writing someone out. In Estate Secrets, there's a scene where they're sitting around the boardroom table, and I realized after I had crafted the scene, oh, crap, I only have 8 chairs around this small boardroom table, and I've got 9 people. So Wanda Simon had to go. So she was gone. But then later on, I needed a bank manager for the local bank out in Gambo, Newfoundland, and Wanda Simon reappeared as the bank manager. So I enjoy the creation of it. But I was, and I think I still am, wondering what's the point in terms of I haven't really settled my mind around what it is I want to get from the writing. I think we'd all like to be a Stephen King or Bernard Cornwell and, live off our writing and be world renowned and your J.K. Rowling's and all this stuff. That's not realistic, I don't think. So I'm not there, and I don't really know what it is I want to get from writing, but I'm not sure what it is I'm getting. And so, I think really what I want to get is Added Red. But so I think when January hit, I think I finished writing Estate Secrets probably November of last year. And it took me until now to get around to the idea of like, all right, fine, I've got it written, I might as well publish it, type of thing. Same type of argument as the first time. So I'm still in that mode of, well, what's the point of this? And it can be a very isolating world in that I'm not writing collaboratively, so I don't have someone else involved with me that's saying, hey, you know what, you need a nudge, here's the nudge. So, I'm not involved in the local arts community. This is just a thing that I do on a Sunday morning because I think it's kind of cool. So, I'm still struggling to figure out what's the point. But Estate Secrets was written. I'm hoping, to be honest, it's going to get a half a decent reception, so that's my motivation to say, all right, fine. People are enjoying what I'm doing. So let's keep it going. So we'll see. We'll see where, the story about the prison ship and the Irish ladies has been sitting there for quite a while. But I just, right now, I can't seem to come back around. Maybe even this conversation will be enough to kind of give me the nudge to say, hey, you know what, let's get back at it. But we'll see.
Yeah. Well, we'll have more conversations if that's what it takes.
Oh, well, jumps. Okay.
How about that? Yeah.
There we go. That sounds good.
All right. Let me finish off by asking you kind of alluded to it a little bit there. When you started, you had an idea of what success was.
Yeah.
And it's obviously changed dramatically. What do you see success now being?
I think if someone were to say to me, hey, you're John Goodland, I read one of your novels, it was great. I think that would blow my mind.
Dude, I read one of your novels. I read 3 of your novels.
Oh, did you really? You're the one. So I have, because I'm on self-published, all my book sales at stores are on consignment basis. I do have local stores that are stocking them.
Okay.
There is one based, the Dartmouth Book Exchange up in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, has them as well.
Yeah.
So I'm always online looking to see what the numbers are. So I'm really aware of what my sales are.
Obsessively online? Obsessively or no?
Not so much lately.
Good.
First, very much so.
Yeah.
Now I'll check now and again. Like I checked yesterday because I want to make sure, I noticed the local chapters has ran out of copies of Siege of Carbonear Island, so I want to get them more.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm kind of waiting until I get Estate Secrets to go and push that one as well. I'm not looking to get rich off it. Even a couple of nice reviews online would be great, right? I think at this point, so I'm typically referred to as an introvert. Writing, in one sense, very introverted because it's you and the computer, but it's also very extroverted because you have to get out there. I don't have a publisher flogging my books, so it has to be me. And I can tell you, marketing the book is way harder than writing the book for me.
Right.
So going and sitting at a table to do a book signing and stuff, that is so far outside of my character, it's unreal. So, if I'm putting in that much of myself, forcing myself outside of my own comfort zone, doing interviews like this, an occasional online nice review would be all right, something like that. Yeah. So I think right these days, as selfish and maybe childish as this is going to sound, just a bit of acknowledgement might be all right.
Yeah,
that might be the success that I'm looking for. It's just, hey, you wrote a book. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, I can see that. I think when you start, like for me, it's personal, but I write on a platform called Medium, and does very well for microfiction.
Right.
And I obsess over how many reads and views I get, and every day. So when I wake up in the morning, I don't check my news app. The first thing I check is, okay, how many reads did I get yesterday?
Right. Yeah.
And so for long form, I'm not sure what I'm going to obsess over. I expect that once I publish, wherever you get that number, I'm going to be there to look at every single day, because that's what I do now.
Well, if you go through KDP, they have lots of opportunities for you to obsess, because you can log in and see what your online sales are.
Yeah.
And I've also got all my novels in, what is it? Kindle Unlimited Reading or whatever it's called.
Right. So you get a share, right? A share of
so I'm always checking to see. So I can tell you I haven't had any sales in May. And I found that out yesterday.
Right.
And it's amazing how much joy you'll get from looking online and seeing, oh my goodness, somebody that I don't know bought a book.
Yeah.
Or maybe I do know them. I don't know. But I don't know that that. And I'm glad we're having this conversation, because to go back, I remember that feeling of looking online and realizing that somebody had bought a copy of my book and I didn't know anything about it ahead of time. So it wasn't, uncle this one or aunt that one or my cousin Keith out in Saskatchewan.
Support, right?
Right. As much as I appreciate the family support, keep on.
Yeah.
It was quite the feeling. Oh, I'm glad we're having this conversation. I'm really enjoying this. It was quite the feeling of knowing that, wow, somebody else has bought it. And so there's lots of opportunities on KDP to obsess over that stuff.
I think I should stay away from that, dude. I got enough. I'm obsessed enough over.
Well, I find I do something similar, on Facebook. If I put a post on my author page on Facebook saying something's coming up, I spend quite a while checking to see, all right, who looked at it, who liked it, or whatever. Like, are people picking this up now? Type of thing, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Just even for future reference. Well, if 50 people liked it and saw it, maybe there's one who's actually going to buy your book.
Oh, well, I hadn't thought of that. Thanks.
Sorry, buddy. You can't go away without taking something from the podcast.
Yes, true enough. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Where can listeners find your work? We now know it's Amazon, but you're in bookstores and stuff too, right? Like online bookstores?
Amazon, you can get all of them, and they'll deliver them right to your door, of course, or you can get the ebook and get instant access.
Mm-hmm.
Locally here in Newfoundland, I have my books at Chapters and Coles here in St. John's, and also Coles in Corner Brook.
Okay.
The Down Home shop, both local outlets and online, has a couple. I haven't gotten all of my books with them yet. Okay. And if you're in the Nova Scotia area, the Dartmouth Book Exchange has copies. Making sure I haven't left anybody out. Yeah, that's where you'll find me. Oh, and if you're in Newfoundland, the local public libraries have picked up my books, so they have copies that you don't even have to buy; you can rent.
There you go.
Absolutely.
So you are in the library in Newfoundland.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know what? That was, again, so that happened without me doing it. That was, I don't know how it came about, but there's somebody in the library world that's always looking for locally published things.
Okay.
And the coolest thing I found about it was, they might buy, say, 7 copies. 6 are in libraries.
Yeah.
1 goes into their archives. So it's really cool for me to think that stuff that I've created that didn't exist before is now preserved in the archives forevermore. So that's kind of cool to think that
is cool.
I'm a part of the Newfoundland lore now, or forever type of thing, right? So that's part of being in the library system is that's that cool thing. And yeah, if people want to rent it, I know I've borrowed books, read it, enjoyed it, and then I'll go buy it. So, there's always that possibility too, right? So
yeah, if they like it enough, they're going to buy it because they want to read it multiple times.
Yeah, I did have one person contact me after Saving Maria Lindsay, saying that they bought the e-version and enjoyed it so much that they also went and bought the paperback. So, you know what?
Nice. Yeah.
There you go.
There you are. Good. Well, you've come a long way from Pine Tree Trails, right, in Nicholasville. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Good.
It's
good
been a
for
journey.
you. It has.
And you as well.
Has. Yeah. You know what? You and I both, here we are connecting from both sides of the country, and not so long, or maybe it was a long time ago, we used to play in the backwoods of Deer Lake. So,
yeah, it's amazing where life can take you, right?
It is.
And
indeed.
You know what? There are many days where I swear on technology, but there are days like today where I'm thankful for it because,
Absolutely.
But for technology, what connection would you and I have these days when you lived here? Geez, we were always together,
Correct.
So, thankful for technology for that, and really thankful for you for reaching out and providing this opportunity. I really enjoyed it. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you know what? You are welcome, and I appreciate it as much as you do, simply because, we're just getting going with Brewing Fiction Podcast, and you are the exact author, person that I had in mind when I created this, in that you're going through the mud, figuring out this whole process.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to learn from that. My listeners want to learn from that. And you are exactly what I needed to help propel this forward. So thank you as well.
Oh, you're very welcome.
John, let's do this again. Maybe we'll talk about the other 6, maybe next year. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
right.
if I get, what is this? This is May almost. So if I get at it, get down to business on it, I could see that probably being by the end of the year, early New Year type of thing. When I'm in a groove, when I'm at it, 6 months is usually my from start to publish type of thing.
Dude, how do you do that in writing Sundays?
It's not just Sundays; it's Sundays and snow days. So,
okay,
well,
you know what? You can write a book in a week in Newfoundland, right?
That's right. So I get a snow day.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but snow day happens. It's like woohoo! And I know that on a snow day, I'm churning out 3,000-4,000 words, which you've only got to do that, not that many times to get to your 80,000 words, right? So
I remember seeing one time you had a good weekend. I think it was a snowstorm because you guys had quite a few this past year, but I remember you posting. I'm going to say 8,000 words or something like that.
Yeah.
Holy cow! That's a month for me.
Days of a couple. And for me, lately, it's that's like 6 months. You go through your bits, right? But yeah. So I don't know. It's just kind of how I work at it, and when I I walk a lot, so a lot of times when I'm out walking, I've come up with the idea. So when I sit down to write, it's just keying away and way to go. So We'll see. We'll see if that can continue. I'm awesome. 4 in. I would have never thought if during COVID you had said to me, hey, you know what, by 2024 you're going to be releasing your 4th novel and talking on a podcast to your cousin in Saskatchewan about it, I would have said, yeah, right.
Yeah, right. That's a story in itself, right? So, yeah, that's a story in itself, buddy. Well, congratulations on your 4, and here's to that many more and more. And thanks for your time, and we'll talk again.
Excellent. Thank you, and I'm looking forward to yours as well.
All right. Next time on the Brewing Fiction Podcast, we welcome science fiction and fantasy writer Hannah Greer. Hannah, a skilled short story writer and editor, is also involved in combat sports and is the proud pet parent of 3 cats and a small flock of pigeons. Tune in to hear her discuss the merits of writing short fiction, the allure of science fiction and fantasy writing, and the potency of flash fiction. You'll also get to hear an excerpt from her story, The Way the Stars Glow. All this and more next time on the Brewing Fiction Podcast. Stop by the podcast homepage for links to today's guest and to see what else is brewing on the Brewing Fiction Podcast. You can find the links in the description. And don't forget to click the subscribe button to be notified whenever a new episode is released.